Hello, everyone. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. It looks like you can, but I mean, with communication, sometimes you just never know. How are you on this beautiful Sunday? I'm going to give you guys a couple moments to hop on live. And if you are hopping on live, hello, hello. How are you doing on this really dreary Sunday evening? If you have no idea who I am, my name is Meshi, and I'm an intuitive healer and a reader. And I hop on here every single week to give you guys sort of like a collective reading of what's happening. I also kind of give you guys any downloads, any updates that are happening for the week. As you can tell by the title of this video, we're going to be looking at the collective energy for the week of May the 2nd all the way up to May the 8th. So really, we are kind of tapping into sort of what you need to know, what is something that you can kind of keep an eye out on, all of that good stuff. Let me just take this off because I can't see. Hello, hello. And as usual, I also have some fun announcements that are coming in the next week. I'm quite excited about it. So let's get started. First, let's talk about, you guys already kind of know the drill. We talk about any messages that were kind of coming through. If you're new to astrology, you're not sure sort of what's happening astrologically. Basically, what's happening is we do have, I believe we have a lunar eclipse. We are in eclipse season right now. And we also have a new moon in Taurus, which we entered into as of yesterday. So as of April 30th. And right now you're going to feel all sorts of things. I think that we're all there's going to be emotions collectively that kind of goes through, but then there's also based on our individual paths where we are, that will also kind of come through in a different way. So while we like to generalize it, but at the same time, there's certain themes that are kind of trying to come through. And so I thought that I would chat with you guys about that just a little bit. Take a moment, actually, before we get into any of that, I want you to just take a moment for yourself and really arrive here. I think it's very important whenever you start kind of watching something new or you're doing something new than you were from what you were doing before, a few moments before. I think it's important to just kind of take a deep breath, really arrive where we are. It helps you receive the messages that you need to hear. And it also sends a really strong signal to your brain that right now we're entering into a different activity. So maybe one moment ago you were eating ice cream, and now here we are talking about eclipse season. So let's take a moment to take a deep breath through the nose and just release. Exhale through the mouth. Let's do that one more time. Inhale through the nose. And gently release. I know most people don't do this. I think it's very important to do this because it really helps you kind of arrive right now. It also, I don't know, I think it really just signals, it just kind of honors the next moments of your life and really helps you become present, which we don't really talk about all that often. Whether we're talking about tarot or spirituality, we don't talk too much about being present and how we can really be in that mental state for us to be able to receive and hear and actually accept and receive what we need to receive in that given moment. So, eclipse season, what can I tell you? What came through? Well, this whole concept, and most of it is actually very much attached to like this really dense energy, this our base foundation. So it was very much attached to how we relate to money. Money has been coming through quite strong. Most of us are on our manifestation journey. And so we generally kind of look at manifestation as the opportunity for us to manifest abundance, to manifest a life that is filled with prosperity and wealth. And all of those things are actually different things. Prosperity is different than wealth, than abundance. While they are kind of interconnected, and a lot of the times we use them interchangeably, I do believe that they are different. And abundance can come in multiples of forms. It doesn't just come in forms of money. The way that we understand wealth is generally attached to money. And the way that we understand prosperity to be prosperous, that just to me, that encompasses all areas of life. So it's just all of those meanings and how we kind of view that, that is shifting. Because what we're finding right now is that what we were told, and whether we were told this by society, whether we were conditioned or it was our attachment through our conditioning through family ties or cultural upbringing, whatever it is, wherever we pick that up, we had this idea that you needed to kind of climb the ladder in order for you to receive or to be able to kind of be worthy of getting to that next phase where you can, where now you have paid your dues for you to be abundant. And the thing is that what we're finding is that all of those things, when you really break them down, most of those things, like the way that you can build a business, the way that we can, the way that we make a living and the way that we really bring value to the world, a lot of the times does not match where we are energetically right now. So a lot of times people are stuck in jobs that they really hate, and then they're really limiting their own potential, especially if in the back of their mind, like they're kind of thinking that, well, there's this other thing that I'm way more passionate about and I'm not really doing anything about it. So a lot of the times people are sitting on like this untapped potential because we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to really let that fly, because that requires courage. So this idea of how we look at freedom and how we look at abundance and how we're looking at what does spaciousness really feel like, all of those concepts are being rewritten, and you're rewriting them ultimately, because we're finding that what we thought was abundance, what we thought was the road to prosperity, and what we thought was the thing that will make us so rich and so happy and so fulfilled is not so much anymore. And it's not that it's a bad thing, it's just because it led us to where we are today. So I do believe that, I don't believe that it's like it's right or it's wrong. I do believe that it led us to where we are today, which is very important. And so I think that a lot of you will be doing a lot of reflecting. You're going to be kind of looking at, what does the next chapter of my life look like? For a lot of you, it's going to be, this is a very uncomfortable position because you're kind of reflecting and you're like, oh my gosh, like I put so much into this one thing. I thought that that would be the thing that will get me to the next chapter of my life. But right now I'm kind of seeing that that was actually a lie. I bought into a lie and I didn't really want to see how I'm buying into a system that's really not supporting me in the way that I thought that it would. And then the other part of it is to, you might be feeling lost. You might also feel like it's like this painful inner transformation that is taking place where you're sort of letting go of the old, but it's hard to let go of the old because within the old version of you, within that old life, there was so much comfort in that because it's so familiar. So just, it's almost like we're kind of going through like not just the tower moment, but we're also going through our own evolution and our own ego death, essentially, because aspects of ourselves really does need to die and be left behind in order for us to create space and spaciousness to welcome the new. You might also be doing a lot of cleaning and a lot of spring cleaning. And most people don't talk about this, but with spring cleaning, what ends up happening is that you end up reflecting a lot because you're moving so much old energy, right? So you're, again, like that sense of refreshment that's kind of coming through. So with that in mind, let's take a look at what is happening for the collective, what you guys need to know. But I mean, if you're feeling any of this, let me know in the comments, because this has been coming through quite strong for the last, I generally feel what's going to happen like a few days before the actual astrological event happens, which is quite interesting. Okay, apparently there's like a lot of things popping out here. Okay, let's go. So where most of us are still sitting and where most of us are still kind of gripping onto, but we're not really quite ready to sort of learn this just yet, is having the sense of fear. And to me, fear is sort of just like the trigger that comes in. It's sort of like the invitation, and the invitation is, are you ready to answer the tests from the universe. Because when your fears are coming up, your insecurities are coming up. And if those insecurities are coming up, then there's something there. There's something that's nudging, whether it's something that wants to heal and come through, or it's something that it triggers an insecurity where there's something that's waiting for you. So a lot of the times it actually a sense of expansion that is waiting for you, or it's something that you really need to pay attention to because it's going to be your greatest lesson. Either way, whenever we're sitting in fear, um, to me, that always kind of comes with, it's sort of like the invitation. It's sort of like getting the invite to the party, but then you're tripping out that you got invited to the party because it's like, am I really worthy to be there? And beyond that, to me, the type of fear that's coming through here, it's more an internal story that we're telling ourselves. It's not really real. Like we're fearful of the illusion. And I mean, it makes sense because if we're going into this new chapter, of course it's going to feel really uncomfortable. Like you're in the darkness, not really knowing if you leap, are you going to, like, is anybody going to catch you? And then what is kind of also coming through and what is here right at this moment is actually a sense of regret. Like a lot of us are, as you're looking at all of these things of what already happened, what already took place, most of you are going to be looking at it with a sense of like what you didn't do. And again, I mean, like, talk about self-sabotage right now. Like we have fear, we have regret. What else do we have? I just kind of feel like with regret, it's one of those things where you're looking back on the should have instead of honoring how it led you to the right now. So it's almost like we were looking at what you didn't do or how you should have done it better, but then you're not learning from that lesson. And a lot of you aren't really ready to kind of feel that because it's easier to regret. You know what I mean? It's easier to just, talk to someone and say, I should have done that. I should have done it this way. I should have done it that way. Instead of just accepting in the present moment that there's not much that you can do about it anymore. Like what is here right now in this visceral, very present moment, you're no longer dealing with that situation anyway. So why are we spending energy on the should have? Unless it's a cyclical thing and you're ready to actually embrace what kind of came through and what you learned, then you're kind of wasting your energy. And then what is the overarching energy underneath all of this? What is kind of trying to get you to really embrace is having the sense of imagination. But to me, embracing the sense of imagination, it's sort of like creating spaciousness. And again, like we're talking about the sense of spaciousness and freedom and abundance and all of those things that are very like very expansive, very open, very like if you're thinking about abundance, most people don't think of abundance like you're not constricting, you're expanding, right? And imagination is very much about that, where you're kind of invited to look at aspects of your life where you can create a sense of play, a sense of lightness. Like I think a lot of us are taking ourselves way too seriously. And so that there's this sense of like we're spending our lives in a way where we're either in fear or we're waiting for the next shoe to drop or we're looking back with a sense of regret. Isn't that funny? And imagine what would happen, and this is just an invitation. It always is just an invitation, so take it or leave it. But imagine what would happen if you flip that coin upside down. And I mean, the option is always there. You can always go back to feeling fearful and regretful. But imagine if you looked at it from like, okay, what did it actually teach me? And then how did it strengthen the thing in me that I have now? Like, what did I learn through that? And sometimes it's hard to see what we learn through that because we go through a lot of painful circumstances and situations. And especially as you're going through it, and I know a lot of you are, you're not going to be able to be like, oh, great universe. Thank you. That was fun. I loved it. You're going to feel like a bundle of mix of emotions. So just keep that in mind. Boom. Okay. So with fear, we had the strength card in reverse, which to me, the strength card, again, a lot of the times to me, the strength card, it's not, we keep thinking strength as in like this outer, this masculine strength. And to me, the strength card actually speaks to this really divine feminine strength, this really inner power that comes from this conviction that where you're going, and it's almost like that inner trust that where whatever is kind of coming in, you can handle it. You're more than equipped. And strength doesn't come from this idea that everything will be fine. Strength comes from this idea that whatever gets thrown at you, whatever you have walked through is likely worse. So you've already walked through a lot worse, and you're also equipped to be able to handle whatever is going to come through. You have that much faith in you that you can actually walk through it. And you're willing to have the courage to walk through it rather than to cower away. So a lot of times, like when we have hardships, it's just knowing that they're temporary. They're here to teach you something. The faster you learn, the faster you can kind of move through it. But then the other part is like when you're tapping into that inner strength, that's an inner conviction that you're willing to say no. You're willing to walk away. You're also willing to say no to the okay. A lot of times we don't have a hard time walking away from something shitty. We have a hard time saying no to the circumstances that they're okay. They're fine. It could be better. And then the moment that you say it could be better, it's like, oh shit. It probably should be better. It probably could be better, but you're not creating space for it. That's the hard part. That's where your strength comes from. And then we have the King of Cups with regret. The King of Cups to me is all about really mastering your emotions, really looking at, can you sit in the sea of that regret, whatever you're regretting? And I mean, most of you will have a list of things that you're regretting, but can you sit in that and actually have, it's almost like, it's almost like it's almost like having that courage to say, like, what did it teach me? Basically. And then with the imagination is like literally creating that space where whether you go back to your practices of meditation, you go back to your practices of just moving your body, moving energy through. I feel like most of you will definitely need to do that because you're still stagnating in that space of, oh, I'm too tired to even do anything. Introduce something that feels fun, that feels interesting, that feels exciting. Do something that doesn't necessarily have to be this chore. It could just simply be something that you allow to come in so that it can shift your vibration. Because when you allow something new to come in, then that's when the inspiration comes from. And to me, that's what the Ace of Wands is. It's asking you to allow this spark of new to come in, because then that can be your guiding post. And if you're not sure if you're moving into this next chapter, like you are, but if you're not sure if you're moving in the right direction, then the way that you know is when you make that decision. And I mean, the decision is in a split second. It's not like this drawn out thing. The way that you know if you're moving into the right direction is by basically feeling at ease after you made the decision, but then also you're getting those little breadcrumbs of, like, here's the direction that you need to go to. And you're always going to get that. You know what I mean? And I mean, I can attest to this because I've seen it within my own journey, where I just feel like, ooh, I'm not sure if I made the right decision, but it felt right at the moment. And then something happens the moment that you ask for a sign. Like, I'm getting the signs that it's like, no, you know what? You're moving in the right direction. It's going to be fine. Maybe not, maybe the timing isn't correct yet. So create the back end of it, of whatever it is that you really want to manifest. But you're moving in the right direction. And I will show you signs that will feel like a sign. Generally, like if you're paying attention, that spark of inspiration, when you're really allowing something new to come in, that's usually how it kind of works. At least that's how it worked for me up to this point. Interesting. Oh my goodness, such an interesting week. I feel like most of you are going to be really tapped into the eclipse energy. It's definitely a lot more intense than just what you would feel within the new moon. I have so much to say about that, but we're not going to make this an hour long. So eclipse season will have us kind of just reflect a lot and really look at how are we doing and how can we shift so that we're actually in alignment with our highest truth. And I feel like most of us are really yearning for that. And then we have the Ace of Pentacles, which again, it kind of goes back to this idea, this really beautiful idea of manifestation. I'll tell you the story. So I had like this full download on, we will put this into perspective so that it doesn't feel like it's a generalization. So I had this idea that if I build a physical business and with it, and I work within that business and I kind of build this framework and, attract the right people, then those people that will come in and work within that space with me, they're going to be like, even saying this out loud is so ridiculous. They will be so inspired that they will want to work alongside me, right? And not really realizing that it's like, okay, but like the entire industry is built on people that are very much feeding off of fear, right? They're part of a system. They understand the system, but like this is how it works. When you're in this system and this is your role, what you do is you work in the system, you build whatever you're doing for the services, and then if you create like a container, a space, a physical location where other people can come and work with you, all they're going to do is they will look at you of what they can what can they extract for their benefit and then move on. That's like, and it's hard to see that when you're in it, because when you're in the thing, when you're building this beautiful thing and you have like an actual physical manifestation of this business, then it's so hard to get caught up in this idea of, like it's sort of like there's actually a card for it. It's like this guy with like the head in the clouds. And then it's almost like when you start dating someone for the first time and you're just like, oh, like, pink colored roses everywhere. And we can get so caught up in this idea of what our thing that we're putting our efforts into, what it could be, instead of seeing it for what it actually is. Even though the universe sends us 1,000 different signs that says, hey, you're getting into this industry where there's a lot of people that just want to just go in, do what they do, then get out. They want to use the resources that you have and then they want to get out. They don't want to be part of like your pipe dream. They don't want to change the industry. They're just like, let me get in, use the thing, go home. That's all I want. I don't want to like showcase how it can change. Like we're not here to like stop it. We're not here to change the industry. Chill. You know what I mean? That's literally like me going and working at the bank and thinking I'm going to change the entire banking system, not as a teller, right? So, and it took me literally years to see this for what it is. So the way that I feel about all of this is I had this attachment that if I build this beautiful place, people will come. They're going to be so inspired that they want to work with me and they're going to want to work alongside me. And then they're going to be just as driven as I am so that we can build it together. And oh my God, we're going to change the entire industry. And we're going to make a ton of money in the process too. With, of course, not just what we do physically, that's already proven, but all of these new other things because we're innovators. And then now, as I step away just for like a little bit, I'm like, why isn't that working? Well, it's not working because every single person that have come through so far were the most beautiful teachers showing me like, no, not how it works. Like, not how it works. You don't need a physical location for you to have abundance. Like, it's not like if you have a physical business that's not online, but that's like in the 3D, and you have the lease and everything, then like you need to have that in order for you to run a business. But first of all, you don't. Second of all, because you have a dream does not mean that the people that are going to come through will also share that dream. And third, understand that what it actually means is when you have a physical location, you're in a lease, you are, all it means is you're liable, you're kind of put into, it's like a pretty cage, but you're put into a cage. You're put into a cage because when you're running that thing, you need certain people to be in there to actually do the work if you don't want to work anymore. So don't be so attached to like this idea of how much money you can make within that, when it's always going to be capped within a physical location generally, unless you have other sources where you can really start scaling it. And if it's a one-to-one service that you provide, your the level of abundance that you can hit is always going to be capped. And I didn't really want to see that until right now. So as I'm looking back, I'm just like, what went wrong? And it's like, no, nothing went wrong. You just needed to open your eyes and see that what you thought was abundance is not abundance. What you thought was freedom is not actually freedom. It kept you caged. And what you thought would get you to the freedom that you really desire is what you thought you wanted. It's not how it, just release this attachment that it needs to kind of go through one way. It's going to happen and it can happen, but it just doesn't have to necessarily happen through the pathway that you paved out, which was, by the way, based on someone else's idea of abundance. So that's the thing that we need to kind of release, this idea that we already kind of know. It's like this, like such an egotistical idea of like, oh, I already know. I already know how to get there. Thanks. It's like, no, the universe is giving you the map. Like, don't be dumb. The universe is giving you the map and the directions. He's like, here's the breadcrumbs. Just follow the breadcrumbs. And ultimately, what I have learned is the underlying lesson within spirituality and within tarot and within meditation. And what we kind of learn is an underlying lesson. And I mean, this eclipse is no different. We're learning how to release the grip on everything is permanent. We need to release the grip on this idea that we already know better when we have no idea what our potential is. Like, you're just getting to know yourself. It's like the song and dance. You're just getting to know who you are. You don't know, because the tests that are coming up and the triggers that are coming up are kind of leading you along the way, but I wasn't looking at it from a point of view of like, ooh, where's the lesson in that? I was looking at it like, why isn't this working? So it's almost like once we change the questions and we're looking at it with a sense of curiosity and inviting this spaciousness, then everything shifts. So then we're not taking it personally. We're not looking at it like, oh, why didn't this work? I wasn't cut out for it. No, because it's not in alignment. Energetically, it's not in alignment and you hated it anyway. You know what I mean? Like, how many of us are sitting in a job that we despise? I mean, you go there and you feel drained to a point where like you're exhausted after 3 hours of work. I've done it. And yet we're not cluing in that, like, listen, energetically, you're actually not aligned to do that work. You need to be doing something else. Do something that like lights you up. You see that fire and it's just like, oh, I could talk about this all day because I know that it's effective, because I know that it helps people. So, and it doesn't always mean that you're going to be an entrepreneur. Sometimes it means that you seek out the companies that really light you up, that really align with your core values. So I always kind of felt like, of course, that's what my business is going to become. So, I mean, my vision didn't change, but the pathway that I'm getting there is changing. So that's the underlying lesson here, that what we thought was abundance is not abundance. What we thought was freedom, what we were sold as freedom, is not freedom. It's actually just it's almost like a lipstick on a peg is still a peg. And what we thought is what we condemned as like ludicrous, essentially what you'll end up doing is you're going to manifest the job, you're going to manifest that life is very much in within reach, but energetically we need to match that. And the way that we match it is relatively simple, but it's a process. But it's basically just raising our vibration to match whatever it is that we desire. We don't want it, we desire it. And when you desire it, then it comes from a different space, because desire is like this deeply, it's like this luscious, beautiful emotion that's just like, oh, it's so beautiful to have it. Whereas want means that it's out there, I don't have it, I want it because I want it, because then my life will be different. Does that make sense? Like, it's a different energetic vibration. Want is coming from a place of lack. Desire is coming from a place of expansion and spaciousness. So when we're looking at like all the things that we actually truly desire, there's already a detachment that is attached to it. So when we're attaching our worth to like, I need this card, I need this thing, I need it, I need it, I need it. And it's like, well, what happens when you have it? Well, I just want it. Okay, but what happens when you have it? Doesn't matter if it's money, if it's the boyfriend, if it's the job, if it's the car. What will happen? Well, nothing, but I will have it. And then that's the ego speaking. But when you're looking at it like, oh, I desire this, I don't know, vacation home because I'm really going to impact a lot of women there. There's going to be some transformational things that are going to happen. And then it's like the universe kind of hears it and says, okay, let me clear some space. Okay, there's some good shit happening there. Let's clear some space for this one. Because then it's no longer about the ego. It's no longer about the attachment of the ego that it needs to attach itself to the something so that it can define who you are. It's coming from this deep space of alignment. And that's energetic alignment. It's not alignment as in, ooh, right place, right time. No, it's more than right place, right time. It's energetic alignment. Are you clearing space? Are you creating energetic space for you to hold space for that thing that you want? And when you're looking at every single thing that people desire, they desire a beautiful relationship. They desire money, they desire wealth, they desire a beautiful career where they feel seen and heard and aligned. All of those things come from a place of create it for yourself first. What do you need to create? Like, it's almost like get rooted back into the body and into the right now first. Are you actually aligned for that job? Are you aligned for that boyfriend? Would he see you for the truly shining light that you are? Because if you're still projecting your inner insecurities onto that person, then you're not in alignment. And the moment that people start asking, especially within tarot readings, when will that thing come in? Like, I've been waiting. Like, that's like a trending sound on Instagram. Like, well, when is it coming, universe? I already know you're not in alignment, because it drops in when you match energetically. What are you doing to match energetically? Eating cookies is not going to get you matching energetically. You know what I mean? It's going to be like, okay, I'm really grateful for all of this. I'm grateful as in I'm happy if it's here, and I'm okay. I'm going to live if it's not here. It doesn't define who I am, because I'm significantly bigger than the tarot card. I'm significantly bigger than I'm bigger than all of this. I'm not defined by the car that I drive. I'm not defined by the house, by the materialistic. You're never defined by those things. So when people kind of start looking at it like that, then it just shifts energetically of not only what we desire, but how we desire them, and then how we go about actually manifesting it. So it's a little bit more of a loaded answer, but that's sort of what came through when it comes to freedom and abundance, and really taking some time, honestly, taking some time to grieve the past, as in grieve the idea of who you thought you should be by now. Because sometimes we have that attachment too of like, I thought that that dream would be significantly bigger. And it's like, well, if that's leaving, that's probably because there's something even bigger that's waiting for you. It's not because you're not worthy of your dreams. It's because it's coming through a different form. Does it matter what form it's coming through? Like, does it? You know what I mean? If you want to, if my desire is to help a lot of people, does it actually matter if I'm helping through YouTube or through TikTok or through Instagram or on a live stage? Not really. No. Is it still impacting people? Is the underlying intention still the same? Yeah. Well, then just chill. Then just sit back and enjoy. Like, have fun with it, and really find that sense of fun and ease. And this is where ease comes in, where it's just like it flows rather than like, step one, step two. And then it just feels like you're gripping. And then that comes from a place of lack. So I get interesting insights when it comes to, especially when it comes to money, because money is such a deeply rooted relationship. I find it's not, most of us really desire it, but most of us have literally no plans of what to do with it. So it's sort of like, it's always just like, oh, just a little bit out of reach. It's like, why isn't it dropping through? What will you do when it comes through? What will you, like, what will shift? And until you're clear about the what will shift for you and what will you do with it and how will you, and this is assuming like your base is taken care of. If your base is not taken care of, take care of the base first. This is when you're already making base, but you're still unfulfilled. You're still feeling like you should have more, but then you have no idea what to do with it because you haven't carved out, you haven't mapped out that life that you really want. So again, and then you go on Pinterest and then I will show you what abundance looks like. And it's like, shit, like, what if I don't want that? Like, what if I don't want to live in a New York City apartment in a congested space? You know what I mean? What if I want to live in Bali? What if I want to see the mountains? Does that mean that my dream is not as good as what showed on the vision board? So I see a lot of people kind of get tripped up on that. And hence the Ace of Pentacles. So the Ace of Pentacles to me is all about really getting rooted back to like your base foundation and really taking care of your base, as in your base relationships, how like your relationship with money. I think that there's going to be a big focus on sort of like how are you taking care of things and how are you kind of moving forward with it, right? Like with the Four of Wands, it's sort of like it's creating a sense of stability, but then at the same time, not coming from a place of lack. And I think, again, we're shifting, but as we're shifting, our desires and who we are and how we're showing up is also shifting. So I think that there's going to be a lot of that shedding of the old belief system that's going to be happening, where we're really changing our minds about not only what is possible, but how we're going to get there. And really having the courage to kind of challenge those base systems that we had so much faith in. That's my long-winded rant on the channel messages. I can't even sometimes, because sometimes, and the way it comes through is if I'm doing something, and as I'm doing something, I'm looking at that action that I'm doing and I'm really present with it. And I'm just like, wow, isn't that interesting of what that's actually doing? Because like if you're doing like spring cleaning, and I mean most of you will be doing spring cleaning intuitively anyway, but just watch what happens when you're doing spring cleaning, what you're actually doing, because you're clearing up space. And just be clear of what you want to create space for. And then finally we have courage. And I really like courage because to me this is almost like the same thing with strength of, and that's what it says actually. It says, I find the inner strength to face fear with confidence. To me, it's beyond confidence. To me, it's really having the courage to do the uncomfortable thing, the thing that you really don't feel like doing. It's almost like, oh, I'm dreading this. Like you might have like the nightmares about it and you're staying up all night. It's having that uncomfortable conversation, but it's also saying no. All of those things really require courage. To me, what I'm getting here, it's more like speaking your truth, really being honest, perhaps with yourself for the first time, that what you desire, you're worthy of your desires. So it goes back to that, like using that sense of imagination. And sometimes you tell that to people of like, play like you played when you were a child. It's like, ooh, that's a really big jump, guys. Like that's a really big jump. If you're not constantly giving yourself permission to just almost like just open up the door just a crack so that like a little bit of fun can start coming in. Like buy a board game that looks completely dumb and you're going to buy it anyway and you're going to have fun. To me, sometimes that's what it starts with, is just kind of doing little bits and pieces of uncomfortableness so that you're involving and you're inviting in a little bit of flow, a little bit of fun, and see who you become in the process. Like I see this within our family all the time when they wait for the opportunity for someone to invite them to go and have fun, or wait for the opportunity for them to give themselves permission to have fun. You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, I'll just wait until like the next whatever. And it's like, no, what if you don't get that? Like what like you have right now. Go and enjoy the sunshine right now. Go and have fun right now. Go and play with your kids right now. Like you have right now. That's all you're gifted is right now. You're not gifted tomorrow. You're not gifted, like yesterday is already finished. So why couldn't we just stay within the moment and just really be present here? We could, but I definitely believe that it's a practice. And that's why I believe within the spiritual practices, within meditation practices, all of these practices really, really hold us so centered. To me, it's not so much about ooh, what downloads come through. She has something to say. To me, all of these things, they're very sacred because we make them sacred because of the state that it leaves you in. You become a different version of yourself. And I see so many people just kind of downplay it a little bit, especially when it comes to meditation. I see that a lot when we're just kind of speaking about it like it's an option. Maybe your practices that are sacred to you, they're not an option. Create those practices, whatever it is, whether that's journaling, whether that's meditation, whether that's yoga, all of those practices that allow you to deeply connect and really allow you to shift who you are and how you feel. Those are sacred. Those are like non-negotiables, and everybody has them. Whether we speak about it or not, it's a different story. But to me, that's how I look at meditation. That's like your gateway to get into the subconscious, but it's also a gateway for you to really connect with who you are on a deeper level. That's what it actually is. So I have a hard time framing it any other way because that's what it is. I have a hard time framing it like, oh, if you practice, you're going to sleep better. Yeah, for sure you will. For sure you will. Will you feel more connected and more at ease? Totally will. But is that like the advertising point that we need to say in order for you to really say yes to yourself? Like it starts with courage, right? It starts with saying, just like lean in, just say yes to you. And it's a practice, which means that you don't do it once. You show up to it on a regular basis. And the more consistent you are, you're also proving to yourself that, oh, yeah, I got me. Okay. I'm keeping my word to myself. That's nice. Thank you. I like this. You should do this more often. It really proves to yourself that regardless of anybody's watching or not, you're still there for you. You still got you. So all of these things, I'm hoping that it gets really normal. Like I'm hoping that that's the space that we're moving into where this gets normalized. When we're speaking about spiritual practices, not in a way of like you're either doing it or you're not doing it, but we're speaking about it as an invitation of like, here's a ticket, just feel better. Like it's sort of like, here's a glass of water, just feel better. It's just with such ease rather than, oh, you're not doing it. Oh, that sucks. You're not working out. Ooh. You know what I mean? Like, look at the intentionality behind how people speak to you about all of these practices because they're all sacred. And the moment that we speak about them with integrity and the moment that we speak about them in a way that it's sort of like, here's a buffet, they all work. Just choose the one that resonates. And I hope it serves you. And literally, that's my deepest hope for you. It serves you. Then great, then it's for you. Have fun. So that's all I wanted to share with you now that I have gone on my 45-minute rant. Apparently, there was a lot more channel messages than I thought. Sometimes I just write out like, what is the category? And then it ends up being like, oh, wait, I needed to unpack that just a little bit. I'm also quite enjoying, if you're not familiar, I need to say this because I feel like people will ask, the deck that I'm using, and I mean, I've had this forever, is The Soul's Journey by James Von Praagh. Oh my God. Please watch him on Gaia. Like if you have Gaia, if you have access to Gaia, oh, the deck is so simple, but he's just like, he's the type of person, he's the type of psychic medium that really makes you believe in magic. Really, truly, he's just like the most heartwarming human. And I'm so sad that he only had, I think, a couple of seasons on Gaia. But I mean, just his charisma is just pure magic. And like, I really love supporting people like that because when you feel into their energy field, you're just like, oh, shit, I can't help but like be around you. I don't even care what your channel message is. You're just like pure magnetism. So I really love people like that. And I started using this deck again. I've had this for a while, and the stuff that's coming through, I'm pretty sure that there's a little bit of him that's within these cards for sure. Well, obviously he created it, but sometimes I have like the most intense readings out of like a 2 card pull. So I'll just leave it at that. Let me know how you guys are doing in the comments. If most of you will be watching this on the replay. I would love to know how the eclipse season has affected you, if at all. It would be interesting to see how each of us are kind of going through and navigating the maze that is eclipse season, because that's going to be, I believe it'll affect us for like the next 6 months. So this is not something that, oh, it's the next week and then you're good to go, you're taken care of. No, it's going to be for the next few months. So like whatever your intention is right now, it's going to be a powerful one. It's going to, you have the energetic backing of the universe. You always do, but it's really nice when you can use the energies of Luna to just catapult you into the next chapter, whether you like it, or not. Which is always fun. This is all I want to share with you guys. Now, you know what's interesting with the maze? I have to mention this. I don't have the card anymore. I have another deck that's I have it on the bookshelf, but their tower card is a maze. Literally, like the imagery on the tower card from the tarot, it's not a tower, it's a maze. The guy is standing by the entrance of a maze, and the only way for you to see where you're going is wait for the lightning. Take it as you will. It's like the most brilliant way I have ever seen a tower card described, because to me that has resonated so much. A tower, when you're inside the building and you know it's burning, you will likely jump. That doesn't really resonate with me. But when you're showing me a maze and it's a pathway, and you're like, okay, which way do I go? And then there's this thunder that's happening in the distance, but you need to wait for the thunder, the lightning to strike, for you to get illuminated the path where you're supposed to be going, or where the entrance is. Let's hope to God you see the entranceway. And then what will you lean on? The question is always, what will you lean on? Will you lean on your fear or on your faith? But I mean, if you're entering the maze, one would hope that you're leaning on your faith, that you're going to be protected no matter what. But that was like the most brilliant, like intricate way that I've ever seen a tower card described. And it absolutely matches human condition. It absolutely matches, matching energetics, matching vibrations. Like it matches so much of that. Like it's so highly accurate that you can't even make it up. So ever since then, it's always a maze. And it should be a maze, because really we're all navigating and we never really know if we're moving in the right direction or not. So that's sort of where going back to the inner compass is very helpful. This is all I have for you guys. This is all I have for you. I hope that you have enjoyed that. If you did, you already know what to do. And we will be back next week. And I'm hoping that I will actually be able to release a separate video when we're kind of talking about, there's a lot of these mindful insights that kind of come through. So expect a new video that's not going to be a live, that's going to be literally a pre-recorded video that's coming up next week. So more new things that I'm going to be releasing is actually, which I'm quite excited about. I'm going to start it out on Instagram first. I'm going to be hopping on Instagram Live, and we will do a reading with a coaching. So similar to what we've done today, but a little bit slightly different, where I'm hoping that we can kind of look into one area of life, and we'll pull some cards, get some guidance, get some channeled guidance. But what I would really like to do is how we can use mindfulness tools so that we can kind of navigate forward. So rather than looking at like, what is the underlying theme of the week, what I would like to look at is within career, when you're feeling stuck, how do we move forward in the most intentional way? that it actually is aligned. So I'm hoping to kind of play around with that next week. That's going to be happening on Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you absolutely should, because I generally do like a daily little intention setting reading every single day. And plus, just come by, say hi. I mean, I always love chatting with you guys. So come and hunt me down on Instagram. I will leave a link for it in I will leave it in the comment section, and I will also leave it in the description so you can find me. That's all I have. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me. I had so much fun, as always, every single Sunday. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.